Your boy King Jiffy Coats, and I'm going to be coming at you with a little bit of a different type of video today. I had decided to take it upon myself to look into all the different murders of gamings. Now, I'm not going to cover every single one, and I want to be honest with you. If you're the type of person that doesn't want to hear jokes and wants this to be covered in a very serious manner, I'm not the guy for you, and you should probably click off of this video. I'm saying that for your sake. I'm going to be making a lot of crude jokes. I'm going to be saying a lot of things that are out of pocket. That being said, I also want it to be known that I do feel bad for the families or anybody who had to deal with any of these situations that I'm going to be laying out today, or really anybody that has to deal with murderers or absolutely awful people at all in their lives. I feel bad for you. My thoughts and prayers, I guess, go out to you. But with that being said, I want to get right into these murders, starting with Melissa Brooks Baten was born in March 2nd of 1972. She ended up being a public defender working on domestic cases for the Clenburg County, North Carolina Public Defender's Office from 2000 to 2002. In 2002, she decided to move all the way over to Washington and start working at Microsoft Game Studios. That's right. That's why we have Halo gameplay in the background, because she was originally credited on Halo 3 and Gears of War as a sophomore development engineer. She's also listed as a support role in a lot of the Rare Studio stuff on the Xbox 360. But alongside her, her husband, who ended up becoming the murderer, Joseph, would work from different projects with Microsoft, and then he ended up working with Wizards of the Coast as a senior project manager. He was the head for this thing called Gleemax. It was like an expansion, but it was shut down so they can concentrate on regular D&D bullshit. I don't know what's going on with D&D stuff. Maybe you know. Let me know down in the comments down below what the fuck is going on with Gleemax. You're not here to hear this entire woman's work catalog. We're here to get to the nitty gritty. So let's get to the real stuff. On June 5th of 2008, after learning of an affair that Melissa had, she was just running around those Microsoft offices. She was actually getting some rare D, if you know what I mean. One could probably surmise Joseph wasn't handling this quite well. He actually confronted her with a .22 pistol, and then had at one point even looked at it himself and said, you know, I might do this, or I might do you, which led her to move into a friend's apartment in Redmond, Washington. I know this is retrospective Jeff here, but I want anybody to know, if you have somebody that you're living with and actually like married to or something, and they pull a weapon on you, you should probably move out just like she did, and also report them to the police. That is what everyone should do. This isn't me victim blaming or saying Melissa did a bunch of wrong stuff, but I do want to say anybody out here who goes through stuff like this, report them to the cops. I mean, get a restraining order, pull yourself out of the situation and get him in a little bit of trouble. There's this funny thing that happens when you report somebody like this to the police. They then have a little demerit by their name when they try to purchase, let's say, a firearm, for example. They then can't purchase that firearm, which would have probably led to the non-death of Melissa. Because after the situation where he had pulled the gun on his wife, he then decided that a friend told him, hey, you know, buddy, you should probably go sell that gun and just not be a fucking psychopath. That's probably the better example to set. So he goes in and he sells his .22 handgun back to the dealer. But he decides, you know what, fuck that. I need a bigger caliber, and buys a fucking .357 Smith & Wesson and a 9mm Taurus semi-automatic. If I'm guessing what kind of Taurus, it was probably the one that looked like the Beretta. Or it was just one of the piece of shit Tauruses, which we will never actually know. He just says 9mm Taurus semi-automatic on the website I was checking. To be clear, just the gun guy coming out of me right now. If it was any other Taurus, he was a fucking retard, which it doesn't really say much considering what he did to his wife makes him full retard material. What we're going to see with this case moving forward is there's going to be a lot of times where I can look at this in hindsight and say this is one of the dumbest fucking somebody should have done something cases of all time, because right after he buys his gun, he breaks into her place of work at Microsoft campus on July 16th when she was not in town, and security guards caught him and he was told he was not allowed to return to the campus. They should have filled out a police report and they should have pressed charges just for breaking and entering and trespassing. I mean, the fact that he has gone away with this much and he isn't in fucking jail yet is just astronomical fucking retardation by the police in Redmond, Washington. On top of that, Melissa told police that he tried to call her over 30 times on July 19th and 20. Melissa got a protection order against Joseph on July 21st, which said he was not allowed to come within 100 yards of her fucking finally. Which, to be honest, this dude should have already been in jail for 1, threatening to kill somebody, which would have been attempted murder, 2, breaking into a facility when not getting a trespassing order. They should have pressed charges. And on top of that, now he's harassing her. There's just so many red flags that should have ended this guy up in jail. But on July 25th, she finally decided she was going to file for divorce and began the process right right away. This is where shit starts to get sad, because soon after that, around 9 a.m. on July 29th of 2008, Melissa left the apartment to go to work. Joseph approached her while she was in the parking lot and fired several shots into her torso with a 9mm handgun. And he decided that he didn't have enough for breakfast and decided to take a lead breakfast himself, ending it all right there. I know that sounds really sad, and it is, and it's horrible, and it sucks that that happened, but I have to talk about the shit the investigators found at the scene. Inside this guy's vehicle, he had fuzzy handcuffs, hardcore, you know what it is, an 8-inch cutting knife, plus $6,000 in the trunk of his car. Now, I don't know what he was doing with all of this. I mean, it's kind of impossible for me to tell, but I do have to say that I just have an image of this guy just sadly living in his car, handcuffing himself to the oh shit handle, and jerking it to some hardcore furry lovemaking material before making this decision. Is that funny? Yes, but is it still sad? Absolutely. The fact that the guy had a fucking go bag when he was just gonna do a last stand anyway makes absolutely no sense, and this just proves that he was a freaking retard. But after this, Microsoft provided grief counseling to Melissa's surviving relatives and helped the family and colleagues organize memorials. The good thing that did come out of this, even though I am a strong Second Amendment supporter, I do believe that if you are ongoing a current domestic dispute allegation, you shouldn't be able to buy a firearm, and this was cited as something to actually prevent that from happening in the future. This is stuff that I do think that it was important, and I'm glad that it did lead to less people that beat their spouse or are psychotic are not able to get a weapon. Before moving on to the next thing, I want to say one last thing, and I hope that Joseph fucking Baton is going to rot in fucking hell for this shit. What a piece of absolute human garbage. Fuck this little retard. Next on the list, we got Daniel Petrick. Daniel Petrick, nicknamed Danny, was a teenager who attended high school in Wellington, Ohio. We all know that Ohio is a place of just fucking happiness. While his home was nearby Brighton Township, news reports more often identified him as being from Wellington. His father, Mark Patrick, was a Pentecostal minister at the New Life Assembly of God. His mother's name was Susan Petrick. And from literally every account, this seemed like one of the greatest families of all time. His friends and family described him as a normal, happy kid without any real psychological problems or anything that would really motivate him in his future crimes. One student recalled them as friendly and fun to be around. Fellow churchgoers pointed out that he was enthusiastic about the Bible, and in terms of academic achievement, he was an average student at his school, and he had no record of suspension. There was nothing linked to him in any sort of violent matter. Almost everybody around him thought that he was just a normal kid. His superintendent even said that there was nothing in his profile that would say that he was a source of violence. This boy was out skiing one day, and then he contracted this thing called Staphylococcus. I'm just going to call it skiing AIDS from now on. Well, he got skiing AIDS, and then he was housebound for a year. While recuperating from spinal damage, he was introduced to the Halo games, which I have to say, that is a fun thing to be introduced to. I remember when I was introduced to Halo, and it was just one of the greatest things I'd ever seen or played, and I loved playing with my family, and for me, it was a source of bonding with my family unit. But obviously, it wasn't the same way for this fucking cum goblin, because him and his friend Jonathan Johnson, what a name, developed an addiction where they would play themselves 7 or 8 hours at Jonathan's house, which honestly, when you were a kid and you were hanging out at a friend's house and there was nothing to do because there was fucking snow outside, 8 hours of video games isn't insane. But what seemed to be the driving force between the controversy that would happen in that household was Daniel really wanted to get this game and play it at his own house, but his father, being a firm believer that fucking video game violence was going to ruin everything, refused to let Daniel buy the game for himself. Now, I might call him Patrick every once in a while because his name is Daniel Petrick, and I keep wanting to call him Patrick for some fucked off reason, but Daniel here really wanted to buy the game and decided to circumvent his father and go buy it without his father's knowledge. Finding him bringing it into the house, his father confiscated it and placed it inside a safe that also had a secure 9mm Taurus PT-92. That is the one that actually looks like the Beretta. That is the good Taurus. It's kind of crazy to me to think that this was going on around the same time that the other one was going on that I just previously talked about, around the same exact game that the chick that just got murdered with the Taurus was working on. I don't know, weird coincidence. It just seems like Taurus can't seem to figure out that they need to keep their guns away from Halo people. But on October 20th of 2007, about 1 week after the game was confiscated, Daniel found his father's key to unlock the safe and stole both the game and the gun around 7 p.m. Daniel walked up behind his parents while they were sitting on the couch and said, "Would you close your eyes? I have a surprise for you." What the fuck? When I was reading this was just so fucking sadistic. It was one of those things that I think there was a lot more going on in the house than what is actually presented to the information that I have. But what a fucking psychopath says that type of shit. "Mommy, Daddy, I have a surprise for you." And then he proceeded to fucking shoot both of his parents. Now, the mom died instantaneously. She was gonzo. But the father actually lived through this endeavor, and he actually stated that he remembers his head going numb and he saw blood pouring from his skull. And this is actually where I start to believe that nobody actually paid any attention to Daniel, because this dude was an absolute socio-psychopath monster. Because he walked over to his father, he handed him the gun and said, "Hey Dad, here's your gun, take it," trying to make this look like a murder sewer slide, baby. What the fuck is even going on here? What kind of psychopath was this fucking cum falcon? Anyway, a few minutes later, his sister Heidi and her husband knock on the door because they were planning on watching baseball together as a family. They just decided to show up a couple hours early, maybe bullshit, maybe have some fucking nachos or some normal family shit, but they ended up finding out that the son wouldn't let him in the house. Daniel was like, no, mommy and daddy are fighting, they can't do it. And they were like, "Fuck you, Daniel, you're a little fucking psychopath," and they busted in, finding out that their parents were both fucking shot. Daniel then hopped in his car and drove away to try to escape to a friend's house. What kind of friend would let you come in after you just are probably covered in blood? An absolute psychopath to just murder your parents. There is no way I would ever let one of my friends into my house after that. But they ended up capturing him, and the trial then began on December 15th to the 17th of 2008. It's actually kind of funny how this case was kind of set up. He didn't actually get a jury trial. It was kind of shut down, but he had his entire family there, and there was 25 students that showed up to support this kid. Now, at the same time, there was a lot of stuff going on in the news cycle about violence in video games. There's a lot of people, including his father, that contributed violence in the world to violence in video games. Now, I think this is a stupid fucking argument, because before video games, there were movies, and movies were violent, and are we just gonna start saying that anything that happens in the world or on the TV, we can't take personal accountability with this? I mean, yeah, the kid was 16, but at the same time, when I was fucking 16, I was playing endless violent video games. I was jerking off into socks, chasing tail, and never once did I think, I'm just gonna murder my parents. That was never a thing that crossed my mind on, I can set it up this way so that it can look like an accident. This is some premeditated bullshit that this kid just fucking snapped. Now, there is something in the defense case that I think could have contributed to his insanity for a minuscule second, and it was because the enormous amount of stress put onto him due to a severe skiing AIDS infection that caused him a lot of pain, and he was more susceptible to influence because of this, I guess, according to some doctors in the trial. But other than that, I mean, come the fuck on, dude. This is ridiculous. There was no way. I mean, even his father and stuff has said that it was the violence in video games being the motivation, that it wasn't his son. This is bullshit. I'm sorry. This kid was a fucking psychopath and deserves to rot in prison. But even if we do go off of the fact that he was a normal kid and everything was going right and all of his friends and family were saying how great he was, he still lost it in that moment and did something completely unforgivable, especially considering the fact that everybody was so loving to him afterwards. Just shows to me that his family was actually loving from the very beginning to the end, and this kid was just a fucking piece of shit. Daniel, however, was convicted for aggravated murder and attempt to aggravate murder his father and tampering with evidence. Due to his age, Daniel was not sentenced to death, which, okay. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole after 23 years, which was the minimum sentence. Crazy he got the minimum. The maximum sentence Daniel faced was life imprisonment without parole, recommended by the prosecuting attorney, because the prosecuting attorney was fucking logical. He definitely did not deserve parole, but I guess the weirdo who shot his parents has a chance to be paroled. After the case, there was a huge media uproar about this whole thing. There was stuff about video game addiction, video game violence, and then the Halo 3 publisher Microsoft had to comment a little bit to it. They said, "We are aware of the situation and it is tragic." That's all they said, because they didn't want anything to do with this fucking moronic bullshit. But I guess in 2030 he has a chance of being paroled, and who the fuck knows? This is a weird one. The last guy on our list for today wasn't actually supposed to be the last guy for this video, but he was so fucking awful that I can't make any more today. It's just too much for me. And maybe if this video gets enough love, I'll do another video like this. But I believe 3 absolutely atrocious incidents in history revolving around murders that have to do with video games. I think that's about my limit per video. But this last guy, back in April of 2014, confessed to suffocating his child after infants crying distracted him from playing fucking Xbox. His name is Cody Eugene Wygant. What a fucking awful person. He was only 24 when he did this, but I want to say one thing before we get into the actual nitty-gritty of all this. There is nothing, and I mean nothing in this world that stops me from taking care of my child. When my wife needs a break and I'm streaming, the baby is in the stream with me. When I'm playing a video game, there's a fucking pause button, and there's nothing more important than my child. And anybody fucking out there that thinks that their fucking video games are more important than your child, you are a fucking scumbag. I don't care what your fucking Elden Ring build is. I don't care how many fucking good of a KD you have. If you care more about that than the fucking safety of your own child, you deserve to be fucking 80 feet under the ground, you piece of living human shit. Now that I got that out of the way, I just want to get back into this. I know that I went off a little bit of a tangent there, but dear fucking God, what's wrong with people? So Cum Falcon Cody here told deputies he covered the child's mouth and nose for 3 to 4 minutes before placing him in a playpen and wrapping him multiple times in layers of bedding, according to the arrest report. What the fuck, dude? What the Jesus Christ, what am I doing? Anyway, because this incel cum gobbler decided to put the fucking blankets under the child's body, he's unable to breathe properly, and then this fucker decided to check on him 5 fucking hours later, and the infant was blue and not breathing. Jesus, dude. I mean, what fucking kind of monster is this, dude? What kind of fucking monster's like, oh, dude, I gotta go get that dub in Halo Infinite real quick. No, my baby's in the other room. It's chilling. It's having a great time while it's fucking suffocating to death. I've never hated anybody as much as I hate this fucking piece of shit. This fucking menstruating piece of fucking bacteria in the end of a penis getting shot into a fucking trash can. I hate him so much. I hate this, dude. This is so rough. Anyway, Cum Falcon Cody got charged with 3rd-degree murder and is going to spend the next 20 years in prison for the death of his 1-year-old son. But if you thought that was it, oh no, we're not done, because there's a lot of more fuckery that had to go with this entire case. Because even though when he was in Florida, he wasn't actually arrested for anything or had any really cases open about him in Florida, but over in California, he had been arrested and charged with crimes such as trespassing and rape. Also, in an article from the Tampa Bay Times, a Citrus County boy smothered after Florida and California both failed to protect him. 2 states on opposite sides of the country had a chance to save 16-month-old Damien. Both Florida and California child welfare administrators expected the other state's agency to protect the boy, whose parents had well-documented histories of sexual battery, mental illness, weapon possession, homelessness, and neglect. California is just out here letting people leave with their kids that they probably shouldn't have. Looking over at Florida, hey homie, we can't really handle this situation, dog. Would you take care of this fucking predator and their kids and make sure that those kids aren't in any danger? Yeah, sure, bro. I'll definitely look into it. And then the kid fucking dies. And what's even crazier, some news that actually came out after the initial reports say that he didn't just play fucking Xbox. He got bored of Xbox and decided he was gonna watch 3 fucking episodes of the TV show Fringe. What the fuck? Who's like, I'm gonna watch Fringe while my fucking baby is suffocating in the other room? But on top of that, they should have never even had the fucking kids to put them in this situation to begin with, because California Health and Human Services actually had the kids under their supervision for a long time, and then they decided, oh yeah, you guys are moving to Florida? Well, here, just take them and go on the airplane with them. This will be great for the kids. We didn't have to take them away from you for any reason. It doesn't make sense that we keep them here in California. Yeah, just get on a plane with these fucking scumbags. Might be thinking, wow, maybe the mom wasn't a scumbag. She absolutely fucking was, because after Damien died, it actually led to saving the 3-month-old sister, who is found to have severe neglect, such as the fact that the back of her head was completely flattened, the result of seldom being moved. The newborn also had severe rash under her neck, armpit, back, and leg, causing the tissue loss that she had. She is now in state care. On top of that, their entire house smelled so bad that you could smell it from the fucking corner of the street, bro. You would walk by that house and you'd be like, dear God, it smells like AIDS. It took a shit on top of dried, mildewing cum rag. Not to mention that the entire house was also infested with fucking bugs. So, of course, the mom was also charged with neglect of their children, not to mention the fact that they were both on drugs, because what's one more thing to add to the fact that you are terrible fucking parents? But it seems like where the real problem that led to this child dying really popped up was the fact that the DCF agent didn't tell Florida the real prior problems that led to them wanting to check up on the family. They just kind of said, hey, is the person they're moving in with in Florida a decent person? They said, yeah, it's just their mom or whatever. And they were like, oh, cool, maybe check up on them every once in a while. They didn't seem to think that it was important to give them a full understanding of what the history of the family was, so they weren't able to take the necessary steps to provide these children with care. I mean, it's absolutely crazy for the people in California to be like, oh, we're gonna put you on this fucking plane, we probably should take your kids away, but we're really not going to, and we're not gonna tell fucking Florida that, hey, this is a high-risk situation and you should really take action if anything that seems out of line. But they didn't seem to tell them anything like that. They were just like, oh yeah, just we're just gonna send them to you, and yeah, maybe check on them, maybe don't, and that led to a child dying. And it's one of those things that I think states should talk to each other a little bit more, and maybe not just fucking say, yeah, maybe you want to check in on them, maybe it's a good idea. Yeah, these people have been incarcerated before for like rape and trespassing. They've also been homeless. These kids been through hell. Yeah, we're not going to tell you any of that fucking shit. We're just going to say, yeah, they're a little bit maybe not the best parents. Maybe you should do some random Popeyes if you want to. It might be a good idea. What the fuck is going on, bro? What the fuck was California thinking here? I don't know, dude, but it's not for me to decide. I'm glad that both of these people are in jail for what they did to their kid, and I'm hoping that their 3-month-old daughter has like a good rest of her life. I hope she gets put with a good home. But dear God, was this a fucking lot for me to research. This really took it out of me being a dad and actually caring about this shit. And I know I'm kind of a crude, really loudmouth asshole who makes jokes when he probably shouldn't, but I hate these type of people, and I really, really hope that the daughter ends up having a really good life and doesn't have to deal with any of this shit. And honestly, I think she's better to get out of the situation she was in. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment, or dislike. I really don't give a shit, and I'll catch you on the next one.